So, Stamina Dragonknight, Waking Flame, updated build from Blackwood. Thankfully, if you guys liked this build back in Blackwood, it has received nearly no changes going into Waking Flame for me. Thankfully, none of the gear that I use on this guy got nerfed or changed or anything. And even with the new introduction of Hrothgar, this build does wear Pariah. I feel that it can get away with wearing Pariah because of Undeath. We will get into this, though, more as we get into the builds video. But like I said, if you guys like my Venom build last patch, you will like it this patch because only the champion points have been changed. I'm probably going to keep the explanations for this build a little bit shorter just because the build is precisely the same as it was last patch. So for those of you who watched the build video last patch, I don't want to kind of like overdo the same information, but I will still go in depth enough for those of you who may be seeing this build for the first time. So kicking things off, guys, we have our offensive set, Clever Alchemist. 2 lines of health, a line of weapon damage, and when you drink a potion during combat, you get 675 weapon damage. This set is very good, but unfortunately it's very bugged. So right now with Clever Alchemist, you need to also, besides being in combat, you need to be actively facing an opponent. You need to have opponent on your reticle, or Clever Alchemist will not give you the weapon damage bonus, at least at the time of recording this video. Hopefully this is changed soon. It makes me very sad because part of the reason that I like Clever Alchemist and the way that I have my build set up, I actually have it double barred. And so sometimes when I'm 1vxing or playing, I like to Clever Alchemist defensively because you get so much weapon damage and your heals go through the roof. But I currently can't do that, which makes me very sad. And so I do hope that it is changed soon because it's a pretty detrimental buff to this, pretty detrimental bug to this set. Defensively, though, I do run 5 pieces of Pariah still running this set, this patch. Line of maximum health, 2 lines of armor, and it increases your armor by up to 10k based on your missing health. Now, I'm sure if you've played it all during the Waking Flame patch, you know of the new set Hrothgar that deals damage based off of how much resistance that you have. So you might be thinking, well, Dots, why are you running Pariah? Doesn't that make it trash? In one specific situation, I think it doesn't, and that is when you are using Undeath, because I do run this build at a stage 3 vampire. If you do not have the damage mitigation from Undeath, I do think, yes, Pariah, as you get low and the resistance goes up, Hrothgar will just full send you. It will just deal a lot of damage, but you also do have the percent mitigation from Undeath, which will dampen the amount of damage that Hrothgar deals to you. And at least for me on my stamDK, I have fought people wearing Hrothgar, and it, obviously the set hurts. It's going to. It's designed to hurt builds that are tanky, but I do feel that Undeath still makes it so that I can wear Pariah, and it still makes Pariah viable. And so I do still recommend running it as a defensive set for this build. We also do run 1 piece of Dami. Dami is there for a line of stamina and a line of maximum magicka. Between being an Imperial and Dami, we are able to get some seriously nice looking stats. 16.5k mag, 28.7k health, and 30.6k maximum stamina. And Dami just really rounds out the pool so that I really never have sustained issues magicka or stamina wise. So I do really like Dami for that reason. And we run the 1 piece here because we do also have a piece of Malakath, which increases your damage done by 16%. This is a dot build. You got a lot of passive dots on this build, up to 9 total. And so we don't really care about crit. We're going for that consistent damage. So we get 16% increased damage done from the Malakath Band of Brutality. Plus, ever since they moved crit out of medium armor and into light armor, our crit is at a gigantic 12%. So we're basically never critting. And so because of that, Malakath's band just is going to be a much, much bigger buff to damage on this build. If, for some reason you don't have it, as I recommend on a lot of my other setups, I do recommend going for Balorg, but I think if you can get Malakath for this build, especially since the crit is so low, I absolutely do recommend it. And now you might be wondering, well, Dots, I'm still wondering why you're double barring Clever Alchemist, and I have not left my brain with that since. The reason I'm double barring Clever Alchemist and not single barring it, for a couple reasons. Number 1, I run a 5-1-1 with this setup. Got 1 piece of heavy, 1 piece of light, 5 pieces of medium. Number 2, and believe it or not, there's actually no way with running Pariah and Clever Alchemist to run 5-1-1 with Pariah. It has to be, and Malakath. Like the way that this build is and the sets that I've chosen, I have to double bar Clever. I can't single bar Clever. And I'm going to be honest, I really don't mind it that much. Yeah, with certain setups and maybe different sets, you could fit the Master Dual Wield in there, sure. But I really like the convenience of having Clever Alk double barred. I can use it offensively. I could use it defensively. I never have to worry about what bar I'm on. And on top of that, it's Zenimax proof because I've gotten Zenimaxed a lot this patch between bugs, ability delay, lots of problems, lots of issues. But Clever Alchemist makes it so that no matter where you are, what you're doing, you will get, assuming you're targeting somebody, buff. And so I really do like it double barred. I know some people still might be like, no, but it's not. Just give it a try. It's definitely worth it with this combination of sets. If you're so morally against double barring it, though, you probably are going to have to look for a slightly different setup since it's not going to work with the Pariah and Malakath combination. But like I said, guys, 5-1-1. We are using all prismatics across the board. I know it's expensive, but it is the most efficient stat-wise. We are using 5 pieces of impen, 1 piece of well-fitted. I really like this piece of well-fitted for the sustain, and 1 reinforced on the chest. We are running 2 Swift and 1 Infuse. We do not have a source of major expedition, so the Swift is really handy. The Infuse has a weapon damage, 2nd weapon damage, and then the necklace has the recovery. We then run a Nirnhound mace, a sharpened mace with double dot poisons. This is going to be 2 of our dots in the build. Deals a lot of damage, so you're going to want to have these. And then we run an Infused Greatsword on the back bar, because between the Infused Greatsword as well as Clever Alchemist, we're able to spike our damage up incredibly high. And we go for the Greatsword because we're not looking to deal a lot of damage from the back bar. Our Execute's there, but the main thing we're going to be doing there is healing. So the Greatsword's going to give us higher weapon damage numbers, therefore, bigger heals. Going into our skills, got Blood Craze. Blood Craze is going to be one of our main dots. This deals bleed damage, which causes the bleeding status effect, as well as dealing the damage from Blood Craze. And it gives us a bleed over 10 seconds and heals us for 1,500 each tick. I always get asked, Dots, why don't you use Rending Slashes? All Rending Slashes does is it gives you a snare and it buffs the initial hit. Again, dot build. Initial hit damage, I'm not really all too concerned about it. Like it's there, but I'm not gonna, run a morph specifically for initial hit damage, at least for this. Number 2, I already get my snares from the Ardent Flame skills, and I am very fast on this build. So I don't need another snare from Rending Slashes. I would much, much, much prefer the heal over time. So I find it to be a lot more useful because we have a good amount of hots in this build, and so we're able to heal ourselves quite nicely. So I personally prefer the healing from Blood Craze. We use Venomous Claw, primary dot, overtime, dot overtime, there it is. Single target damage over time skill. It ramps up as it deals more damage. It applies the poison status effect, just another dot for the build as well. And as this thing ticks down, it will be dealing more and more damage, just ramping up. So you do not want to refresh this constantly. You want to let it expire to deal the maximum amount of damage and then reapply it and then, start it winding up again. We also do run Fossilize on the build, going to be our primary CC. Incredibly strong, double stam burn, damage after they break. It's just super, super good. And it'll just let those dots just take away on them while they're sitting in the stun. Noxious Breath is going to be another poison dot over 14 seconds, as well as our source of major breach. It's also going to be really helpful for getting Nightblades out of stealth, since Volatile doesn't really work anymore, I don't believe, for it, because it needs to be direct damage. Noxious Breath is going to help with that. We run Resolving Vigor. I have heals on both bars, and Vigor is my heal of choice on the front bar. Just the stereotypical, hot for stamina. Everybody pretty much runs it. And then the front bar ultimate, I use Rend. Rend is incredibly, incredibly strong. Deals a shitload of damage. When I'm fully buffed up, the tooltip from this is through the roof. Lasts for 16 seconds. Heals you for 51% of the damage done. It is like a Lights champion and an offensive, ultimate combined. It's actually insane. It deals so much damage. And the thing about this too is you can literally, like I said, because you get so much healing, you can use this defensively too, which I think is pretty sweet. Again, I know some people aren't going to like this because I'm going to be like, but nuts, it could be purged. So if you don't want to use Rend, I have sometimes in certain duels, like if I am dueling a Templar, I will not use Rend. I will use Flawless Dawnbreaker instead. This does also give you an instant hit damage, gives you a really solid dot over 6 seconds, but it gives you 300 weapon damage for the exact duration as your Clever Alchemist. So if you light attack on the back bar, Clever Alch, Flawless Dawnbreaker, your weapon damage is going to be gigantic between major and minor brutality, because Fossilize also gives us our minor brutality from the Earthen Heart passives. So we are able, it just enables so much damage, because it's, again, 20 seconds of 300 weapon damage. Your dot's gonna be taken super, super hard. But typically if I run Flawless DB, I'll pair that with Corrosive on the back bar, And then whenever I run Rend, I'll pair it with Leap. So kind of up to you, dealer's choice with what you want to run, but I personally do like Rend just also for flavor. Executioner is our main execute. Not really a lot to say about it. You know, it's very strong, so we use it. Cauterize is going to be another one of our pseudo hots. You know, it heals every 5 seconds. It scales super fucking well with weapon damage. It just heals for a really solid amount. I personally like this more than Fragmented Shield. I know some people still love Obsidian Shield, Fragmented Shield for the mending, but I really like Cauterize, man. I really do. I don't ever have any magicka problems between using Fossilize, Cauterize, Volatile Armor. Never have any magicka problems. You know, Obsidian Shield is going to be significantly more expensive, almost double the cost. And on top of that, you're always going to need to pair it with something else. You can't just like use Obsidian Shield, then it's like, yeah, I'm healed now. Like, Cauterize is a heal in and of itself. So you have a hot from this, you have a hot from Vigor, you have a hot from Rend, you have a hot from Cauterize, you have a heal from Rally. Like, it's just, to me, Cauterize just feels better in the context of the healing package, at least for me, than getting Major Mending. That's just me, especially because I get my Minor Brutality anyway, and the Stamina Restoration from Fossilize, so I don't really feel like I need that from Fragmented. So I like Cauterize for that reason. Scales well with max weapon damage, like I said. So very good heal, in my opinion, for stamDK. Shuffle, Major Evasion, Snare and Root Immunity for 5 seconds because of 5-1-1. You're going to run this on any medium armor build pretty much for movement. Volatile Armor is going to be another dot. I know someone was like criticizing me on my last video where they're like, you can't say that's technically a dot because it's magic damage, but it's still a dot. You know, it's still there. It's still ticking away. Still chipping away at their HP. And especially I would argue that as you know, ESO has become more hybrid friendly, it's not necessarily the end of the world to have a dot from the other side of the fence. So adds another dot, gives us major resolve, reflects magic damage back, just a very solid armor buff. Rally is going to be the biggest reason that anyone runs 2H, Major Brutality, Minor Endurance, giant ass heal after you refresh it. So it's really, really good to use. Leap is going to be my ultimate of choice whenever I cannot rot someone down and I need that little bit of extra burst. You know, Leap into your Executioner is going to be the way that you add that little bit of extra oomph in order to finish off certain targets, or it can be used to gap close or for a stun if you need it. You know, it's got a lot of different uses. I've used this to peel for people in the past too if I'm playing in a small group, so it's really good for that as well. And you might be thinking, you might be looking at this, you go, dots, where is the spammable? But I personally don't feel the build needs one. Between refreshing your 3 primary dots, you'll also be refreshing all your passive dots as well from this, using Fossilize, healing, kiting, refreshing your own buffs in the back bar. I very seldomly feel the need for a spammable. You really need one, just use a dual wield heavy attack. Dual wield heavy attacks are like butter. They're super good. So you can just feel free to use those in place of a spammable. But personally, I don't really feel a need for one, and so I just use this as my skill loadout personally, and it works very, very well. Stat-wise, 16.5k maximum magicka, 28.7k health, 30.6k max stam, 1783 stamina recovery. We got 20k spell resists just sitting around. Obviously, it's going to go up with Pariah, 19k physical resistance, and 2,000 critical resistance with an unbuffed 3,700 weapon damage, but this is going to skyrocket with all of our various increases to weapon damage, as well as all the percent amps that we have in the build with Major and Minor Brutality. This is going to just go through the fucking roof. Serpent Mundus for stamina recovery. Recovery Munduses are extremely stat dense, so we run the Serpent because it gives us a lot of return. Them stage 3 for the reasons I've already explained. And we use the Lava Foot Soup and Saltreese buff food for maximum stamina and stamina recovery. And part of the reason we were able to run Vampire stage 3 and the Lava Foot Soup is because of the Imperial. Imperial, in my opinion, is significantly better than Nord for this build. Imperial is going to give us a big boost to our health, 2,000 health, big boost to stamina, 2,000 stamina, and on top of that, gives us 6% cost reduction across the board. That is ultimates, skills, core combat skills, magicka skills, stamina skills, literally 6% cost reduction to everything. And it's also essentially, it's like another piece of well-fitted too. So I find Imperial to be really good for the sustain, especially like the Nord resistance passive has been nerfed so many times. I just feel like sustain races are very stat dense right now, so we do rock Imperial for that reason. 7 points into health as well with 57 into stamina. Potion-wise, we do run just regular tri-stat pots. Again, Malkath build. Don't really care about major savagery. CP-wise, CP changes have been very, very kind to my Dragon Knights this patch. Deadly aim for single target buffs. This is also going to buff all of your dots, so just be aware of that, which is why we run this. We also do run Thaumaturge, obviously, or a direct buff to our dots. We then run Duelist rebuff for 10% damage reduction against single target abilities, as well as Ironclad to reduce direct damage. I've moved from Resilience to Ironclad just because I feel like Ironclad is going to give you so much mileage. It's good against AoE attacks, single target attacks, crits. Like, a lot of the stuff that we're scared of nowadays is direct damage. So I just think that Ironclad, you get a lot of value out of it. And so it's going to be my second defensive CP of choice. Red CP-wise is the biggest buffs, in my opinion, to the Dragon Knight class. Boundless Vitality for 1400 max health. And then these two beautiful CP stars. Sustained by Suffering, which gives you increased recovery while you're under a negative effect, 150. So literally while you're actively PvPing, you will get 150 recoveries. And Pain's Refuge. It reduces the damage taken by up to by 1% per negative effect on you, up to a maximum of 20%. So the more people you're fighting as you're 1vxing and as the negative effects start to really stack up on you, you are going to be mitigating more damage. So it's really, really strong to keep you out there brawling in the fight, and then combined with Pariah and Undeath, you're just going to be really, really effing tanky with this. And now, one of my favorite new stars that we get for this build is going to be Celerity. 10% increased movement speed. Just another permanent movement speed buff on the build, because it does not have major expedition, because we do not have a bow or any sorts of major expedition baked into the build. I really, really like this because this combined with Swift makes us extremely mobile. And the thing is that mobility is something that cannot be really quantified on a stat sheet, but that's essentially is going to give us better sticking power to our opponents. It's going to give us better defensive capabilities because we're going to be able to kite way better. And so I think it's a very, very good star for this build, and I definitely recommend running it. Now, in terms of a rotation, again, this is going to be very obvious, I think. You're going to want to maintain your dots. Maintaining Noxious, maintaining Blood Craze, maintaining Venomous Claw is also, it's going to get your 3 active dots up, but all of your passive dots, Bleed status effect, Poison status effect, double dot poisons, all those are going to be applied. Also, maintaining Volatile Armor on yourself will then put a dot on your opponent. But when I play this build, I literally just go 1, 2, 3, 4. You just maintain the entire back bar. Maintain on yourself. Maintain the front bar on your opponents. Stun, rend, and watch them die. Pretty straightforward. If you use Flawless DB, I recommend making sure you line up Flawless DB with Clever. I'd also try to obviously line this up with Clever too. But if you do that, you're going to significantly maximize your damage. It's going to be huge. Clever, like I said, is also really, really good defensively with this build too, because we do have a double bard. So if you're taking a lot of damage, you need to heal yourself in a pinch. You know, it's better to be alive than to be dead, obviously. So as you're kiting, pop that potion. Try to target somebody because this game is a AAA product. But, you know, dodge, roll, kite, use your heals as you're kiting. And if you boost them with that Clever Alch, you're going to be getting huge, huge, huge healing return from it. And you're going to be able to get back up, get back in the fight, start fighting back. And Clever Alch's 20 seconds. You know, it's quite a long time. So you're going to be able to have it up to flip the script on your opponents as well. One thing I want to mention with Rend, I don't remember if I mentioned it, so I do apologize if I did, is that because it's 16 seconds long, part of the reason I like Rend over Thriving Chaos, because it's 16 seconds, it will outpace a lot of defensive ultimates. Someone could Lights Champion your Rend, and it will only cover half of the Rend. So that's a really fun fact about that, where after that wears off, they're still going to be taking a shitload of damage. So that's personally why I like this. It lasts a very, very, very long time, and I find it to be really strong for that reason. But like I said, if you're facing a lot of purges, Flawless DB will be your replacement. But guys, that's it for the updated stamDK build. Not much changes to it, but still feels really good and really strong, and I do like it. Very potent. Like, comment, subscribe, all that usual stuff. Written version down in the description. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for stopping by. Appreciate it. As always, I am Dots Gaming. I'll see you all